Welcome to the Change Your World book tour. You are in Chesterfield, Missouri right now. I know, I saw you from Manila, South Africa, Tobago, Cayman Islands. I saw all of you, but we're in Chesterfield today. There's snow on the ground, which, to be honest with you, John and Rob Hoskins thought that it was sand from South Florida. But we're here because, really, this is not a book tour. This is a movement. This is the Change Your World movement, and I'm excited today to introduce to you two men that have spent their life and all of their success to bring you a concept of significance, to invite you into a journey of significance, and to make you the hero, the world changer. And so we are excited today. Yes, we're in the room with some fired up people in Chesterfield. This crew is incredible. But we're also around the world because today we are passionate about changing the world, passionate about changing countries. But today is all about changing your world, not the world, not your country, but your world. And so in just a few moments, you're going to be invited into the behind-the-scenes actions, behind-the-scene understanding of Change Your World. I'm going to bring to you John Maxwell. If you don't know John, let me introduce you to John because he's going to come and give you an incredible leadership lesson. It will fire you up. It will inspire you. Grab a pen, grab some paper because you're going to take some furious notes today. If you're online, get ready to type because you're going to put in the chat box. And John's going to come. Now, John has written over 86 books. He's sold over 34 million copies of those books. How do we know? He's counting. Yep. But every one of them is an impact moment. And so John, in just a moment, is going to come and talk to you. But before and after he does that, we're going to bring up Rob Hoskins, the co-author of this book. Now, let me tell you just a moment about Rob because he truly has become a consultant to some of the largest brands. You would know some of the brands, billion-dollar companies that he, with his strategies and his outcomes approach to effectiveness, will change corporations and change the way we think. Rob, in his day job, he puts resources daily into the hands that now One Hope, his organization, has impacted 1.7 billion young people with messages of hope. I did say 1.7 billion because I spent 3 minutes in the back room practicing the word billion. I usually want to say million. But today you're going to get to hear from them, and then we're going to get to hear from you. You online, you in this room are going to have a chance to ask a few questions of John and Rob about this book. But let me simplify today. You could have just watched for 5 minutes and you're already ready for me to get out of the way to hear John Maxwell. Let me simplify for you. I want you to write it down wherever you go. ChangeYourWorld.com is where it's happening. There are literally thousands of people in roundtables right now just because of the work of the last 5 days that are beginning Change Your World movements in their community, and you're going to miss out if you don't become a friend to ChangeYourWorld.com. Now, besides memorizing that website, which is pretty easy, let me give you 3 steps that today is all about, and you're going to hear it throughout the entire day. Get the book, take the assessment. It's free, it's online. It will give you a report on how well you rate with the 25 values in the book, and then join the movement, which is joining roundtables, and that's what today is all about. That's what we want to invite you into, because at the end of the movement, we're going to see a values-based, people-centric servant leadership that will change the world with you. So are you ready? Will you help me welcome John Maxwell? Oh.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Wow, it's good to see you. Great to see you. My name's John. I'm your friend. On the count of three, give me your name. 1, 2, 3. Nice to meet you. Oh, I love you too. Good to be with all of you, and thank you so much for coming and for just being a part of this day. And what I hope to see us accomplish today is I hope when we leave that, first of all, we're greatly encouraged. This is a very difficult time that we live in right now, and we just want you to leave kind of saying, I think that I can make a difference. You see, when you think of what's happening to us now, we really have two choices before us, and the two choices is we can either curse the darkness, or we can turn on the light. And so this is a turn on the light meeting, okay? This is a turn on the light because cursing the darkness never helped anybody, never improved anyone. In the book, Change Your World, we begin the book by saying that hope has two beautiful daughters, and one is anger, and the other is courage. Anger at the way things are, and courage to believe that you can make a difference. And anger has a tendency to want to curse the world, but courage has a tendency to want to turn on the light. And so we're going to ask you to be courageous today. We're going to ask you to lead, to stand up, step out, not be maybe part of the crowd, but be one that will allow the crowd to, for a first time in several months, have hope and begin to make a difference in their lives. And so I'm very excited about that. Let me ask you a question. How many of you want to improve your life? Let's see the hands. Okay, that's looks really unanimous here. Let me ask you another question. How many of you would like to improve the life of the person that's sitting beside you right now? Now, did you notice how much more enthusiastic you are about improving their life? Than improving your, it's kind of like, yes. In fact, look at the person you're seated beside and said, this is the reason I brought you here today. Why do you think I asked you to come? I want you to get better. We all want you to get better. Everybody wants you to get better, huh? Well, of course we do. But you know, as we think about getting better and changing our world, I wanted to give you something. This is not in the book. This is just, in fact, this is the teaching I just started on the tour. So I've never given it to anybody, or it's not in a book or anything. But I thought it might be helpful to you. And again, Rob and I, we just have a desire to serve you and add value to you. When you walk out of here, we want you to say, you know, boy, Rob and John, they're our friends, and they're here to serve us and help us. And well, I really want to give you something I thought would be helpful to you. It's a practice that I personally go through and have for several years, but I really have never talked about it. It's a leadership practice, and it's about 5 questions I ask myself during critical times, during times of difficulty. Because, see, that's when leaders stand out. The more difficult times that we're in, really, the more leadership is needed. And so there are 5 questions that kind of help me find my way as a leader so that I can lead others. And I love asking questions. Probably the biggest change in my leadership journey in over 50 years has been that when I was a young leader, I was very directional as a leader, and I knew what I wanted, and I had a vision, and basically I was taking my people, and I was pointing to the mountain. I was saying, charge, let's go, and getting them on the leadership train. But as I have evolved and grown and developed and learned as a leader, I've gone from being more of a directional leader to much more of a conversational leader and a leader that asks a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions. In fact, my whole conversation with anybody basically is asking questions. Because here's what I know. You have to find people before you can lead them. And so one of the biggest mess ups in leadership In fact, I call it the mother of all mess ups, is leading by assumption. And how many times as leaders, because we have an agenda, we just assume that that's their agenda, and because we know something, we assume that they know that. And so we begin to lead them by assumptions, and we're not even on the same page. In Change Your World, we have a whole chapter on let's all get on the same page. It's all about how do we really connect? How do we really understand where we are, and so that we can go forward and do what we need to do. And so what I've discovered, in fact, I wrote a book, I don't know, maybe, 8 years ago? Gosh, time goes fast. And by the way, when Mark said I've written 86 books, somebody tells me I write that. I don't really know how many books I've written. I mean, honestly, when I wrote my first book, I thought, thank God it's over. And if you would ever read it, you would wish it would have been over. You really would have. You don't know. Oh my gosh. It was called Think on These Things, and if you ever read it, there was really nothing in there to think about. It was like, oops. So, yeah. In fact, I had a lady come up to me. Oh gosh, it's still in print. What amazes me, if I've written all my books, but there's only like 3 or 4 that are not in print. They all keep being in print, and people keep buying them. And I had a lady come up with she had the first book. She had the book, and so she said, "Would you sign it for me?" And I looked at it. Oh my gosh, this is my first book. And I told her, I said, "Well, yeah, I'll sign it." But I said, "This is my first book." And she said, "Oh, I know." She said, "I know it is." And she said, "I love this book." And I was overwhelmed because I've never had anybody tell me they love that book. My mother was back then buying as many copies as she could just to make me feel good, and giving them out to her, forcing them all of her friends. And she said, "I love this book." I said, "You love it?" And she said, "Yeah, I love this book." I said, "Oh my goodness." I said, What do you love about it?" I mean, I'm thinking, wow. And she said, she said, "I love the short chapters." Oh my goodness, I love the short chapters. And they are short chapters. You ever read the book? It's like 100 pages, a little bit over 100 pages. And I have 33 chapters. I do, honestly. I only have like 3 pages a chapter. And then she looks at me. She's such a sweet lady, And she said, "Oh my gosh, I love those short chapters." She said, "Now, that was your first book. How did you think? What made you think of the great idea of having short chapters?" And I said, "Lady, they are short chapters because I can't think." I mean, honestly, some of those 3-page chapters were 2 pages too long. I mean, I was running out of gas. I'd write a little bit, I don't have anything else to say here. So then I'd just go to another chapter, and it just absolutely cracked me up when she loved those short chapters. But when you think of 86 books or however many that is, I mean, that really isn't that big of a deal. Think about it for a moment. The only qualification to write 86 chapters or 86 books is you have to be old. I mean, think about it. If you're not old, you can't write 86 books. So I mean, what I have learned in life, and this is another subject I would love to talk to you about sometime, but not today. What I've really learned at 73 is that consistency compounds. And if there would be one word of wisdom I would say to you today, is that if you are in your calling and you're doing something that's making a difference, the longer you stay on that road, the higher return you really get. In fact, I would say to you in the beginning, I wasn't as bad as people thought I was. And in the end, as I'm over on this side now, I'm not as good as people think I am. But there's an incredible compounding. And I would encourage you to stay the course. And today, every day I'm surprised. Every day I'm surprised because it's just sowing the seed. You see, the success of my day is always determined by the seed I sow, not by the harvest I reap. Because what happens if you just continually sow that seed? the harvest is automatic. Don't worry about the harvest. It's automatic. But so many people, they're every day looking for their harvest. And I said, no, just keep giving, keep sharing, stay in the game. I was having an interesting conversation a couple years ago with Tyler Perry. And he was talking to me about, he's built literally 4 studios. He's been so successful as a producer and an actor in that whole world of entertainment. And he was telling me how that every time he would build another studio, he was worn out and he didn't want to build another one. Can we hope this is over? And when he got to the last one, he really, for 3 years, he postponed building it because he just didn't want to go, he didn't want to build anymore. He just kind of said, I'm tired of building. I just want to do what I want to do. But he did because he needed to keep on growing. And when we finished that conversation, we both looked at each other. We knew we had literally a conversational eureka moment when I looked at him and I said, Tyler, I've come to the conclusion as I've listened to you talk about this, that when you can afford to quit, you cannot afford to quit. That when you're on the compounding side of your life, oh my gosh. When you have stayed the course and been in the core of your calling, I'm 73. I can't afford to quit. It's the compounding is humongous. You with me? And by the way, the only reason we quit is because we put self-imposed finish lines in our life. And in fact, I have a list of about 15 books yet I've got to write. And one of them is going to be entitled, Is There a Finish Line? And the whole concept of that book is going to be that for most people there is, but it's all self-imposed. And I believe that, as Simon Sinek wrote a great book, you need to read it if you haven't, called The Infinite Game. But I believe we really play an infinite game. I believe I was born into a game that was already being played. And I believe when I leave, the game continues on beyond me. I don't think there's a finish line. Because let me tell you something. The moment you put a finish line in your life and you cross it, guess what? You're finished. What part of that don't you understand? My name is John. I'm your friend. I've come alongside to help you today. When you cross the finish line, you're finished. And I know all kind of people. They've crossed their finish line. And I look at them and I say, oh my gosh, how sad it is. You're not officially dead, but you are. And so there's no finish line. My creativity and my curiosity and my desire to learn and grow is much greater now than it ever has been before. And I just keep asking questions. When I was young, I used to give everybody answers, and now I don't want answers. I want to learn from you. I want to ask questions from you. I want to grow from you, because every one of you have something to teach me, and I've just got to hang in there and keep having that teachable, curious, growing spirit within me. And there are 5 questions. Here we go. 5 questions I ask myself during difficult times. I'll give them in what I call sequence order. The first question is, what am I feeling? During a difficult time, I ask myself, what am I personally feeling during this dark hour? And it's a great question. It's the first question I ask. And the reason I ask this question first is this is the emotional connection question. And it's essential for leaders to emotionally connect with the people they lead. You see, people that follow you, they really want to know if you care. They really want to know if you understand. They really do. I was doing the opening session for the United Nations a few years ago. And they asked me to talk for 2 hours on leadership to all the ambassadors. And because they're so different in their cultures and countries and the type of leadership they have, I thought, how can I have 2 hours of leadership with people from such a diverse, incredibly different type of leadership world? And so I did. I spent 2 hours basically teaching them there are 3 questions that all followers, regardless of country or culture, ask their leaders. And the 3 questions are, do you care? Do you care about me? You see, that's this question we're doing on what am I feeling right now. Do you care about me? Number 2, can you help me? And number 3, can I trust you? By the way, those 3 questions I did at the United Nations, the reason we love transformation tables, which Rob and I are talking about in this session, which is in your Change Your World book, is those 3 questions are innate in people's lives, and there is no place those questions are answered as well as they are in transformation tables, because you have time with a few people to find out if they care for you. You have time to build a relationship trust, and you have time to talk and get different perspectives to see how much they can help you. That's one of the reasons that transformation tables are magic, is because those 3 questions are continually being answered at that table. And so I always ask myself, what am I feeling? You know, one of the oldest quotes attributed to me, I mean, it's old, it's really old. But when you're 73, you got a lot of old quotes. I mean, the quote is, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I tell leaders all the time, your first responsibility isn't to lead people. Your first responsibility is to connect with people. And you connect with people on the common ground of caring. What am I feeling? The second question, not only what am I feeling, but what am I seeing? What am I seeing during this very difficult time? Because that's an important question, because there's one defining quality or characteristic of a leader, regardless of country or culture. I've done this long enough when people say, you know, is there anything that all leaders have in common? I honestly have only found one thing that the leaders seem to have in common, regardless of what kind of leaders they are, good or bad, doesn't matter. The leaders see more than others see. They just do. In fact, let me just say this. If you're in a group and everyone else sees it except you, you're not the leader of the pack. Okay? You just start. I don't know who you are, but you're not the leader. Let's just start there, okay? You're not because leaders see a bigger picture. They just do. I'm not talking about IQ. I'm not saying leaders are smart. I don't think they are. It's just in that leadership intuitive giftedness that they have, they see more. And they not only see more than others see, they see before others see. But in a crisis, seeing more is essential, because the sight of people during conflict gets smaller. Don't miss this. When pressure comes, when heavy issues begin to fall on people, their eyesight doesn't enlarge, it reduces. And they're all of a sudden saying, well, what's going to happen to me? And what's going to happen to my family? And am I going to have my job? And their insecurity reduces. Don't forget this. Insecurity always reduces the picture. Insecure people always see a smaller picture than secure people. And so during a conflicting time, the picture just gets smaller. And what people desperately need when the picture gets smaller is for somebody to see the whole picture. And this is what leaders do, and leaders do it very well. But leaders have a responsibility when they see the whole picture to help people start to expand their picture. But you can't, remember this, you can't help people until they know you care. That's why feelings come first. But immediately, you see, the reason that you have to do more than just feel is because if you feel, you get into the same ditch that everybody else gets into. And remember this, leaders have to always have a separateness with them and their people, because they have to help their people, and you can't help people if you're in the same ditch with them. Make sense? So what do I see? What do I see? And how do I help people see that picture? The third question you ask. By the way, I just want to say you just got to stop here for a second and tell you thank you. You're such a beautiful audience. I mean, I'm up here teaching a very simple leadership lesson, and you're gravitating to it. I mean, you're leaning in, you're taking notes, and you're so responsive. I can feel you. I can feel you right now emotionally, just absorbing these questions. And I'm so grateful. Thank you for being so kind. So question number 3 is what am I thinking? This is a whole different level during a crisis, because the thing that is lost the most during times of conflict is thinking. People choose to feel much more than they choose to think. And yet we all know that when you have difficulties and problems, the road of getting through that dark tunnel is thinking, is being able to stay above the crowd and think thoughts that will allow you to find answers, that will allow you to give hope and help to people's lives. So I'm constantly asking myself, okay, what am I thinking? And what you're going to find is this is where there's a if you're not careful, a major disconnect between you and others. The thing that separates you the most from your people that you lead during a difficult time is the thinking gap. I wish I had time to work on that with you today. You see, the greatest gap of success in life is the thinking gap. I wrote a book on how successful people think, and identified 11 ways of thinking that successful people have that are different than people that are not as successful. That book was stimulated by my father, who just passed away last July, on July 4th, in fact. He was 98. And he was just an incredible man, incredible leader. We because of COVID, when we had his service, we put it online, and well over 100,000 people went to that service with me. And then I did a podcast. That on Dad, and it wasn't a podcast. It was my Monday teaching, wasn't it, Mark? It was my Monday teaching. How many of you were with me when I did some Monday teaching during COVID and that whole program? Many of you. We had several million, didn't we? That stayed with us during that time. In fact, let me just stop here for a moment and say, I'm going back to this, because as I look at 2020, that was not a great year. Are you with me on that one? Huh? Okay, you're with me on that. That was not a great year, and 2021 isn't starting off so hot either. And I just on this book tour, by the prodding of Mark, who's the CEO, I think he's really right. He said, John, people really would like to, you just need to give a mature, wise voice at this time. And so I'm starting in February. I'm going to go back on Mondays at noon Eastern Standard Time, and I'm going to have Monday with Maxwell. Yeah, and we're going to, it's going to be just 20 minutes. It's going to be 20 minutes just of my heart and my thinking and my wisdom, of just kind of coming into your life and trying to, be your friend and walk beside you and say, hey, let's think about these things. And I just hope so come and be with me on Monday with Maxwell, and it'll be toward the end of February. We'll let you know exactly, but we'll have millions on, and I hope that and I don't know how long I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it for a few months. As I look back last year, I kind of think, wow, I don't know, maybe I should have kept doing it even longer. We did it for about 3 months, and it just helped so many people. And I think we still, well, I'm just going to say this kindly, and I don't want to dwell on it. I still don't think we're hearing the leadership voice that we need to hear. Now, I'm not being critical of anybody at this point. Well, yes, I am being critical of everybody. I think the leadership that we're getting right now just stinks. And it's pathetic, and it's self-serving, and it's got an agenda, and it's full of crap. Somebody told me, they said, John, I can't believe what you say. I said, you'd be more amazed if you knew what I didn't say. And I carefully selected that word crap. If I'd have been in Staten Island where I was last night, I'd have just said shit. I really would. I was with the business crowd last night. It was, woo! Yeah, I was with my lost friends last night. Yeah. Oh my gosh. If you're listening to this, this is Rob Hoskins talking right now. John's sick and couldn't come. He's off the book tour right now, so I'm doing all this solo. Yeah. Are we having a good time? What am I feeling? Helps me to emotionally connect. What am I seeing? It's what distinguishes me as a leader. What am I thinking? It's what people desperately need more than anything else I can give them. Question number 4. What do I know? Where is the certainty right now? Because people need certainty in a crisis. Now, when I ask myself the question, what do I know? The first thing I have to do is have authenticity and say to myself and say to you that during a crisis, there's a whole bunch of things I don't know. I mean, I've only been asked 10,000 times when COVID's going to be over. And then I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And by the way, I would tell you, when you get leaders that tell you the answers to those questions, you don't want to follow them. Because there's an awful lot of uncertainty. And let me just say this. When I was younger, I had a lot more certainties than I have now at my age. I'm 73 now, and I have much less certainties than I had. When I was 23, I had a lot of certainties. Oh, my goodness. I wish you could have heard me at 23. I was amazing. I just had answers, and you just take notes, and yes, and this, and that, and oh, and I mean, I was amazing. You know, I was a pastor for 25 years. And before Margaret and I had children, I had about 4 or 5 unbelievable messages on how to raise children. Hot, just. Then we had kids. Life knocks the certainties right out of you. Doesn't it, huh? I tell every person, you should be a parent. It'll humble you. You should be a parent, you know. And now when we had Elizabeth, we thought we'd have 10. And then we had Joel. If Joel would have been the first child, he'd been the only child. And that's one too many. You see, but as you get older, you have less certainties. But what's beautiful is I have less certainties than I've ever had in my life. But the few certainties I have right now, I'm more certain than I ever have been before. Those certainties are really certain, huge. And what I'm certain of is this: do you not forget this, and make sure as a leader your people know this. What I am certain is this: there is an answer. There's an answer. And when people look at where they are in a difficult time, they need to have a leader who says there's a way out. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. There is an answer. In fact, to be honest with you, there's usually more than one answer. But it's that certainty, that knowledge, that knowing that there's an answer that keeps you and me in the game. I was doing an interview and people were asking me I was being interviewed about writing books and creativity, which is something I love to speak on the subject of creativity. And in the creativity question, they said, what do you think is the key to creativity? And I knew when they asked the question, the answer I was going to give them wasn't the answer they thought I was going to give them, but that's what I always try to do, always in life, because it's good for people not to get the answer they think they're going to get. And when they asked me, what's the key to creativity? I said, anticipation. I get up every morning at 5 o'clock, start writing, start thinking, start putting stuff on paper. I try to, not on a book tour, I don't get to do this, but when I can, I try to put about 6 hours of that in every day. And let me just tell you something. What gets me up is not self-discipline. That's not, people say, oh, John, you must be the most amazing self-discipline. No. What gets me up is anticipation. When I get up, I can hardly wait to get to thinking and get to writing because I know I'm going to think something, I'm going to write something that's going to help somebody. It's the anticipation that keeps me in the game. And when you know that there is an answer, even during a very dark, difficult time, you're in the game, but you're not only in the game, but you're in the game with a confidence, and you're in the game with joy, and you're in the game with a real sense of contagiousness because you know that you can help people. It's just a matter of time. Just a matter of time. What do I feel? What do I see? What do I think? What do I know? What do I do? What do I do? Because leaders always take action. Leaders have a bias for action. When you see somebody in the game, you can almost always assume that they've got some leadership qualities in it because leaders know that during a crisis, the worst thing that can happen to people in a crisis, the common thing that happens is the worst thing that happens. The common thing that happens during great difficulty is people freeze. They just stop. I remember during 9/11, I had a stewardship company that helped churches raise money for building programs. I think, well, gosh, we raised, up to $3 billion or something. And every day during that year of 9/11, every day during those first 8 months, every week we signed another contract with another church to help them raise money for building programs. And when 9/11 hit, from 9/11 to the end of the year, we never signed another contract. What happened? People froze. All of a sudden they said, oh my gosh, I don't know what happened. So when I don't know what happens, what do? I just kind of stand still, hold my breath and say, oh. And what do leaders do? Leaders know, after giving them, give them the time that they need, the emotional time that they need to hold still. They know that the first thing you got to do is you got to get them back in the game. The reason I think that this is such a prime time for Change Your World is because what we need to do now is get back in the game. It goes back to Rob's assessment that people are saying, I want to know how I can change my world. I want to know what I can do to make a positive difference. And so leaders lead their people into action. If you want to have, by the word traction, and the word traction is the word action. If you want to get traction, you take action. I know people, I bet you know people like this. Let me ask you a question. Do you know people like this? Think about it for a moment. Do you know people that are always getting ready to get ready? They wear me out. Oh my gosh. Have you done it yet? No, but I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready. Yes, I'm working on it. I'm getting ready. I wish I had an hour to teach you another principle called action attraction. Action attraction basically says there is no attraction to you until you start moving. But the moment that you start moving, resources, people, ideas, opportunities, they all come to you. But it's the movement that makes you attractive to others. Does that make sense? You are one terrific audience, and I need to share you I hate to share you. This is the part of the tour that's disgusting to me. Honest to God. I get on a roll, and Mark says, time for us to come back and change the order of the meeting. And Mark's wise. That's why he's the leader of the pack. He knows what's right. And I am thrilled, really. I'm having fun with you. I'm thrilled to bring Mark Cole runs all of the John Maxwell Enterprise. This man carries an incredible load for me. I am able to do what I can do today because I have an incredible leader, friend. So Mark leads the John Maxwell Enterprises, and then Rob's the co-author of this book, who has taken me to a whole new level. Would you give Rob and Mark just a great hand today, would you? Come on up, Rob.
Great job. You were on a roll. Rob and I were wishing you'd keep going too.
Yeah, we got to talk about important things.
We do, and let me tell you
That was
this.
a little bit John Maxwell unplugged right there.
That was unplugged.
Yeah.
I told John.
I got rest last night.
I told John that when we were in the car on the way over here, I said, John, I know it's cold outside. I know that looks like sand, but
Hey,
this is
you've
the
been
home
picking on
team.
us all day
This is the
about this,
home
like we're
team right here.
sissies about the cold weather.
Well, we are. We are.
You
sissies.
are.
Yeah, you're a
Okay.
sissy.
All right.
You're a sissy. I'm a sissy, but we're smart.
Hey,
we
we're
live
smart
in warm.
sissies.
We're
Yeah.
smart sissies.
Somehow
Okay.
Cole-
But you're a sissy.
Okay.
And I'm a sissy.
somehow
You're my mentor.
cold gets its tentacles in
He's
their
a
hands,
smart aleck.
and then boom, they've lost all their vision for the Change Your World meeting right here. Hey, let's do this. Let's do this. John Babu from India.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, have you ever listened to this man's teachings before?
I have.
Have you ever heard his irrefutable laws?
Yes.
One of them is timing.
Yes.
You know where we're going after we're here?
Grand Rapids, Michigan,
And after that?
to Bismarck, North Dakota.
Timing. It's January.
Where there is
may
no
need-
vision, the people perish. The people perish. Hey, so Babu from India said, John,
You said Bahamas. He heard Bismarck.
am I going to get this thing
I
back?
said Grand Cayman, and he thought it was Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Do you see what we have to do? Hit the ball, drag Mark. Hit the ball, drag Mark. Hit the ball, drag Mark.
Sorry, Mark.
Please, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Y'all done?
You're in charge.
Oh, no, we probably aren't, but go ahead. we don't know until we hear you, and then you just feed us. You just feed us. So.
Babu, I've tried 3 times to talk about what you want to do in India, and Grand Rapids keeps trumping you. We're so glad you're going to change the world in India. And Monique is in Indiana, and she said, John, I love your teaching. I'm all in. We're going to change our world.
That's beautiful.
on.
Isn't that beautiful? Another 2 of your friends, we could talk all day about them, but I do want to move on, is Tim and Gabby Teasdale from Paraguay.
Paraguay,
are on here
yes.
And watching. Hey, John, you've written 86 books, yet less than 5, and I think it's only 3, you've co-written with someone else.
Yeah.
But this book, what we feel like, will literally be the most important book that you wrote. I've heard you say that multiple times, that you'll write some more books. You got a lot more books in you, but you feel like this one's going to be at the top of the list. And you chose Rob Hoskins, and you chose to co-author it. Talk us through the why.
Well, the why's simple, Mark. I needed help. And so when you need help, and the reason I need help is the subject is too important and it's too big for me to try to handle by myself. It's bigger than me. And so I looked at somebody that was better than me, bigger than me, faster than me, had more experience than me, was more successful than me, and Rob's that person, and he's dealt with transformation with One Hope and done exceptionally well, and I've learned from him. And when I thought of the book, I said, I know Rob can put in those pages things that I can't put in for you that'll benefit you. And so that's why I partnered with him. I hope that all of you have projects bigger than you that force you to go to someone bigger than you to say, I need you to help me. And I can tell you, Rob, just thank you. You have you've taken the book, and the book would have never been what the book is without your help and your input. And so I needed help, and he's the guy that helped me, and so thank you very much. That's why I chose you.
Yeah, and Rob, this really started as a dissertation for you for your doctorate. You've spent, I've already talked about 1.7 million kids have your resources. Billion, did I say million?
Yeah.
Man, I practiced for that. Billion kids.
It's back to Bismarck. Back to Bismarck.
I mean, who's counting? It's only 35 years in my life. But,
This
you
is
know.
y'all's fault. Y'all are pulling this out of them. I just want you to know. So you've 1.7 billion.
Thank you.
Yes, and you've committed to outcomes. Why John? I know that's a funny question, but why John, and why did you take this and wrap it into this book?
Yeah, answer that last question first. Why write a book with John Maxwell? You know, why play basketball with Michael Jordan? You know, why play golf with Jack Nicklaus? I mean, that was the easiest question I'll get all day. You know, I mean, I remember we were when it happened, and we were on a boat, all three of us together on a boat in Fort Lauderdale, and cruising down the intercoastal, and I was sharing with John about just about the dissertation I'd just written, basically about movements and transformation, and John's been mentoring me for years and been pouring into me, and so I said, John, you know, do you think there's a popular book here? Because this has been our favorite topic for the last 3-4 years, about transformation. And not just from a theoretical perspective. I mean, this is not a book about theory. This is a book about 35 years of my life, 45 years of John's life, pouring into actually trying to figure out transformation. And I just said, John, is there a popular book out of this? He goes, Rob, there is definitely a popular book out of this. And then he turned to me and he said, could I write that book with you? And so I sat there and I said, can you write the book with, yes. I mean, John says I took 2.2 seconds, but I can guarantee you I did not take that long to answer the question.
You were slow. Very much like Mark. Slow. Here I am, 73, trying to bring you boys along.
But, you know, of course, it's of course, John Maxwell wants to write a book with you, you know. But it was more than that. I mean, because of our conversations and because of the projects we've been doing together, Mark, with One Hope and with your organization, I mean, we've seen these things work. Yeah. And transformation is a great buzzword. Everybody's talking about transformation. Everybody's talking about change. It's an attractive word, but what I find is that very few people can define what transformation is. Fewer people still can actually show you how transformation works. And then there's a small handful of people in the world today that I really believe can scale transformation, that have the capacity, the passion, and a deep desire to transform the world. And I really believe one of those handful of men is sitting here with us today in John Maxwell. And I just thought, what an opportunity. And from that very first meeting, it wasn't about writing a book. The book is the start, absolutely. Right. This is our thinking, this is our passion, this is our lives. These are the stories of our lives and what we built through these years, poured into almost every single page of this book. But immediately, it was much more than a book. It was how do we provide the process of transformation to people? Yeah. How do we create a framework for transformation? How do we teach these principles? How do we go on a journey with people, every person who wants to make a difference in this world, and how do we build a platform, which we've done with changeyourworld.com, and then ultimately our vision, our passion was perhaps this could become a movement. And if the world ever needed a transformational leadership movement, it's our world today. And so I really believe that we're going to see the greatest opportunity to build a transformational movement I believe that the world has ever seen. So for me, it was much more than writing a book with John Maxwell. It was about how do we serve people well and put the best possible resources we can. And the title on the book is Change Your World, How Anyone, Anywhere Can Make a Difference. And that's what we were most passionate about, is that these processes we've learned, we've seen it translated into business, into education, into every sphere of society, of life. whatever it is that you're doing. We wrote this book I had people in mind as I was writing this book. I was thinking of a soccer mom who has an autistic child. She wants to see her world change for her child, for her son, and just begin to see her apply these principles that are here, and seeing her parenting transform with that child. And then other parents came alongside her and said, look at what she's doing. I want to do the same thing. And they started a roundtable, which we talk about and now so many people, she's making a difference in her world. So yeah, there's incredible stories in the book about incredible people from enterprise and massive businesses and very successful people. A lot of those stories in the book, John, from the business community are people that had tremendous, and you've written so much about this, and you poured a lot of that into the book. They've tremendous success, but absolutely no significance.
Yeah.
They looked around at what they were doing and they said, I don't know if I'm really making a difference in the world. And their stories are in here, but there's the story of Tiffany's in this book, a young lady I met down in Lima, Peru, that I remember being in the slum that she was living in, and everything on paper said there's no hope for Tiffany. I mean, Tiffany has everything going against her. She's living in one of the poorest places in the world. She has no access to good education. Her father was abusing her. She was a statistic. And I saw that this process of transformation, and I want to tell you today, that little girl is changing the educational system in Lima, Peru today. Transformation is available to everyone anywhere.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, Blessings Violet asked the question, what website did you mention? And it's changeyourworld.com. Changeyourworld.com is where you'll find this. What I love about this book is, John, you're a leadership guy, 86 books, most of them tackling the subject of how to lead more effectively, grow your influence. This book, back to your point, it's about anyone. And you kept challenging us, get this popularized. You've got dissertation work in this. You've got depth to this movement. It's not just a book that we're trying to do. We've put a lot of energy, a lot of resources, a lot of time in developing this. Talk to me about the balance between accessibility, everyone, but yet the process, Rob. So why did you challenge us? I want everyone to have a chance to access this book and to activate on the book. And then Rob, come behind that and talk about the depth we put to the process.
Because I value everyone. And everyone should have a chance to change their world. I'm a communicator. Now, I have an education, but I'm not an educator. An educator takes something simple and makes it complicated. If you're not confused, they're not happy. A communicator takes something complicated and makes it simple. I wanted to change your world to be a book that anybody could pick up anywhere at any time and do anything that they felt that was in their power to do it. I put the cookies on the lower shelf. I want everyone to have some. Obviously, I've had a few cookies in my lifetime. I want everyone to have someone. And so we made the book accessible to everyone, and that's what pleases me. I know I'm known for leadership, but leadership is influence, and every person has influence, so every person can really make a difference in their world. And that what really pleases me more than anything else about this book is that you pick it up and you read it. It's a guidebook. It's a playbook. It's a map. And then we go with Change Your World. Every time you need help or you need resources, you just go to Change Your World, and all the resources are free for you. And so the teachings and the round tables and everything. And so we made it accessible, and it makes me very, very pleased, because there are a lot of people who have never maybe thought they had a shot at making a difference, and they're going to change the world, and they're going to have a real sense. Real quickly, Steve Harvey and I were doing a digital project on communication in the studio, and by the way, that project's out. If you want to learn, if you want about 6 hours of how to communicate effectively, what did they just go?
Elevate your communication. It's by John Maxwell, Steve Harvey. You can find it at johnmaxwell.com.
Yeah, just go to that, and because he's an hysterical guy, and I love him a lot. He's just wonderful. And so we were having really a blast doing this. I mean, the studio was cracking up all day long. I mean, we were just having a big time. But then he said something that wasn't funny, but it was absolutely powerful. He looked at me and said, John, a career is what you get paid for, but a calling is what you're made for. Mm. Man, I said, that's so true. And let me tell you something. You were created to change your world. And that's why I love being so accessible.
and yet we took it deep. We put some depth to this.
Yeah, I mean, transformation is a deep subject. And I had to find this out in my own life. Like, what I found, Mark, is that the organization that I was running we had tremendous outputs. I mean, it was just the volume that we were doing. We're in 177 countries. We have 300 programs. They're in 600 languages. I mean, we're reaching millions of kids every year, more than 100 million kids every year. I mean, we had huge numbers. We had these massive output numbers. But there was, what I was realizing when I would get on the ground and I would meet the people, I was asking the questions, John, am I really providing value? Yeah. And how do I know that I'm providing value? So we'll have 100,000 kids in a country go through our program. I mean, we're handing out resources. We're giving them books. I mean, did anybody read them? Yeah. Once they read them, did they understand them? Mm-hmm. If they understood it, did it affect their beliefs and attitudes? If it affected their beliefs and attitudes, did it actually change your behavior? Those are real outcomes. And how do you measure those outcomes? And how do you know that you know? I mean, we had a lot of great anecdotal stories. I mean, these were great testimonials of people whose lives had been changed. How many of them had been changed? And to what degree had they been changed? So it had me personally go on this journey of outcomes to be able to say, if we're really going to declare that we have transformation and change happening, then where is that change? To what degree is it change? How much more does it need to change? So that entire science of transformation, we wanted to put in a conceptual framework, something that's accessible to someone anywhere, because what we found, it wasn't only possible for transformation and change and knowing those outcomes were happening to happen on a grand scale, but they could happen on any scale. And how do we put those resources in what we learned and make them very, very simple and easy to understand so that anyone, anywhere can make a difference and actually create this transformation process so that the end that they have in mind, do you have an end you have in mind that you want to see in your world today? To see that end accomplished and to be able to get there and know that those outcomes are going to happen. John has said this so many times on the tour. I think people are dying for change. They want to see change. They just don't know how. And that's why we wrote this book. It's why we built this platform and made it as simple as possible. And I really believe this is not theory again. This is the ability to apply it. We've seen it happen in our own personal lives, in our organizations, but we've also seen it through the lives of so many people. And this book is chock full of their stories to say, yes, this process works. Here's how I know it works, and they're able to share it with everybody. So if you're here, you're watching right now, you're sitting here and you're saying, yes, I want to make a difference in my world, then there is a transformational process that's taught through these principles, and we want to go on that journey with you. Yeah. I mean, as John and I were writing the book last year, and as COVID hit, and we were writing those last couple chapters, we came to the last chapter, chapter 9, which is really the call to action. Now, what do I do with everything that I've just learned? And in that 9th chapter, John and I make a promise to you. And the promise is you're not going to go on this journey alone, that we're going to go on it with you. And so we built all these resources, we built this process, we built this platform. And hey, if you're ready to go change your world, we want you to join the movement, and let's go do it together. Let's go transform your world.
Absolutely.
Really simple. Get the book, take the assessment, join the movement. It's really simple. Now, here's what I love about the book, and I've got some questions online. We're going to get maybe one or two in here, and then we're out of time. You really have made transformational, grand, big, 1.7 billion kids. You've got 1.2 million kids in Guatemala today that's going through, during the school day, your values-based content. But yet you guys have both been impacted at a transformational level while you're doing these big things personally. Yours was Ethan. And I'd love you to tell the story about Ethan. And then I'd love you to tell the story of that moment that you were grabbed for personal transformation.
We're in Charlotte, and we're going through a school that's teaching our values. And what's beautiful is we wrote values curriculum for kids, which is probably the most important thing I've ever done in my life. And so I'm sitting down with the third graders, and they're having a little Q&A time with me and get a picture. They've gone through the values. And Ethan, little third grader, stands up and he says, Mr. Maxwell, he said, do you ever feel right down here, Mr. Maxwell, do you ever feel right here that you want to make a difference in your world? And I looked at that little guy and I said, you come on up here, Ethan. he came up and I put him on my lap and I gave him a big hug and I said, you're going to make a big difference in your world. Listen, Ethan is a third grader asking if I ever felt right down here I want to make a difference. And yes, Ethan, I have, and so have you, because we were created by God to make a difference in our world. And what I love about this book is we are giving you a way to take what you were created and purposed to do and be and apply it to your life. The fulfillment that people are going to receive from this book and this movement is going to be greater than anything that we've ever been able to do. And that's what really excites us about it.
Beautiful.
Well, I think that what I love about the journey we've been on, Mark and John, together, is that really transformation becomes a way of life. That yes, there's a process to helping you live that life well, but a movement is going to be when we have agents of transformation everywhere that are actually doing. People are looking for answers everywhere right now, and unfortunately, they're looking for others to change their world. Oh, I wish the politicians would change my world. I wish, business community would change my world. No, this is about all of us taking a responsibility and saying, no, actually, if my world's going to change,
It's going to be me.
It's going to be me. And,
Yeah.
and as we begin to figure that out, then we all become agents of transformation. I really believe that's the way the world is going to be changed. And so what we have to do, and what I began to realize, is that, you were talking about that excitement that you wake up with every morning, and I know you do, John, just the expectation
Yes.
and that's what it's really all about. And I learned this story's in this book that I think you're referring to, Mark, and I was driving to work one day, and I always would drive to work the same way. It was sort of my peace before the storm, before I get in the office and everything's, that I've got to do. And so I just love that sort of quiet time just to think and to pause and to wait. And during those times, sometimes just, is when I get my freshest, greatest thoughts that sort of just rise up inside of me. And I was driving to work, same way that I always do, and I was stopped at this red light, and suddenly this impression welled up inside of me, and it said, take a right turn. So I sat there and I pondered that for a moment. Take a right turn. And I take a right turn in my marriage. Take a right turn at One Hope. Take a right turn in my life. Take a right turn. And then that voice just said, no, dummy, take a right turn at this light. Just take a right turn at this light. Has that ever happened to you, John?
He calls me dummy quite often too. Yes, I relate right to take a right turn.
So I did. I took a right turn, and I found myself driving through a neighborhood, a route to work that I'd never been on before. I was on a new road, and as I was driving through that neighborhood, just for 5 minutes, in the routine of my day, I saw things I'd never seen before. I'd seen them around the world. I'd seen them in the slums of India. I'd seen them in Africa. I'd seen them in other parts of the world. I saw things go down. I'd seen them in Bogota, Colombia. I saw a drug deal go down in this 5-minute drive, right there, right across the street from my office. Right in the middle of the day, a prostitute walked across in front of the car. I saw gang members sitting on the corner, young people that should have been in school. I saw what looked like single moms holding kids that were there, congregated together on those lawns. And what I saw, it filled me with anger. It filled me with anger. I was angry as I was driving through this neighborhood. I was angry at what I saw. I was angry at the need that I saw in this neighborhood across the street from my office. Here we are helping millions of kids around the world, but John, I was most angry at myself.
Yeah, sure.
I was angry because I had never seen. I was angry. I was angry that I had never seen what was right in front of my very eyes. And I pulled the car over to the side of the road. I just began to weep over what I would have seen, anger. And then, John, as we talk about, all of a sudden, I just felt this sense, not just of anger, I felt this sense of courage rising up inside of me. And I remember driving into the parking lot of my office. I went upstairs in the elevator. I made an announcement. I said, hey, everybody, I want you to stop what you're doing. I want you to come. And I gathered the entire team. I said, I know we got a lot to do today. There's a ton of work we've got to do, but there's something more important than anything else right now. And I shared with them the story of this neighborhood across the street that I found out later was called Avondale. And I said, we've got to do something. We've got to make a difference in Avondale. And we've been doing that for 10 years.
That's beautiful.
For 10 years, we've been making an investment in that neighborhood. And what I found is that principles of building these big programs around the world could work right there in my own community across the street. And I saw other people begin to catch the vision, and they began to get involved in Avondale, and organizations and nonprofits and public and educational systems begin to concentrate. And let me tell you, there is a neighborhood that is being transformed right now in Avondale because I took a right turn one day.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And that's really what this book is all about. It's about all of us taking a right turn in our lives, pausing for a moment, opening our eyes, seeing what's going on around us and saying, you know what, we can make a difference in the world. And all it takes is sometimes just a simple right turn. And if that's you, if you want to make a difference in the world, if you want to take a right turn, John and I are ready to go on that journey with you. And let's go make a difference together.
Yes,
let's
sir.
go transform
Absolutely.
the world.
Absolutely.
So let's take a couple of questions here in the room. It's going to be a couple. Get yourself queued up. And while you're doing that, John, Faustina Mullins asked you the question, how do you deal with challenges and yet manage to always stay on top of your game?
Well, you know, we all have challenges. First of all, how many of you have challenges? Huh? Thank you. Just checking. Just checking. And so my issues aren't unique. We all have difficulties, adversity, and challenges. The reason I can stay on top is because I have good people around me. Really, I'm so grateful every day of my life because the people around me are really the people that lift me and make a difference. I have a pen in a marker, a highlighting pen in my briefcase that my team got me. And you know, you use a highlighter in a book to mark it, and they put on that beautiful pen they gave me, "You highlight our lives." And I keep it with me. I pull it out all the time because I'm always marking, and I look at that and I think, no, you highlight my life. I'm telling you right now. And so we all have challenges, but when we become community and we begin to help each other, it just makes things better.
Yeah, and I just want to add on to what John's saying there. I mean, he always talks about the team. When everybody says, well, you know, is there a challenge too big? Is there something? He goes, no, we got this. And the reason he's saying we've got this, he always says we've got this. He never says I got this.
No.
I mean, and I think one of the things we've learned in this process of transformation is there's a few very key principles. And one of the key principles, the pillars of this transformation process, is collaboration.
Yes. Yes.
And collaboration is all about not just doing things together for the sake of doing things together. That's good. That's okay. You know. But there's this saying out there. Let's get along to go along.
Yeah.
That's stupid. That's you know. I don't want to get along to just.
That's like going to Bismarck or.
I don't just want to go. How many just want to go along? How many of you sound like that's really an exciting thing to have happen? I mean, I don't want to get along to go along. I want to see things transformed. I want to see things change. And the problem is, when we talk about collaboration, it's not just about doing unity for the sake of unity. It's about unity for the sake of seeing transformation happen and change begin to happen. And what that needs is people that are very diverse. You see, real collaboration means diversity. It means every single one of us coming with what it is that we have, who we are, how unique we are, how different we are, the skills and talents that we've particularly been given. And real unity, when we talk about having transformation, isn't about all of us trying to do the same thing together for the sake of unity. It's actually about us coming with reinforcing activities and all of us doing what we do really well together so that we have a shared outcome, but we don't have shared activity. And that's why I believe with great confidence, no matter what challenges that I'm facing, what I know is the more people that are collaborating in unity together, the more results, the more outcomes we're going to see. So there's no challenge too big for all of us to tackle together.
Let's go right here to a question. Right here, I saw two of you. You're going to be our two right here.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Amanda Mayberry, and I'm a John Maxwell team member,
Hey.
mentorship member. And I have a question for you, John. In a world where we have more ways to be connected than we ever have before, the generation that's coming up is less connected than they've ever been. What's the single most important thing that our young people today can do when they get up in the morning or make sure they have done before they go to bed at night to change their world?
Well, great question. Only a great question like that could come from a John Maxwell team.
Come on.
I mean, I would have known you were a John Maxwell team member if you had never identified yourself because of the depth and the greatness of your question. Well, the first thing that I love about the question is the fact that Rob and I both would say young people can make a major difference. I mean, when I look at millennials and I look at their potential, old people have a tendency to think their generation is the last great generation. And I don't think that at all. No. When I look at the youth, I get so excited because of the capacity they have. In fact, I don't even hang around with old people. They're my least favorite people. I mean, dear God, they'll have you going to the doctor and it's just amazing what they'll have you be doing. So what we do is we try to help the kids understand. We didn't say change the world. We said change your world. Go to the place where you have your influence. Yeah. Go to the place where your friends are. Go to the place where you enjoy those people and say, here's what happens. Instead of just getting together to get together, we want to encourage them to get together with a purpose that will make everyone better. And so that's what I would say. And I want to say one other quick thing, and that is one of the reasons we teach values in schools to kids, is that if you have good values on the inside, an empty bag can't stand up straight. If you've got great values on the inside, you need less validation on the outside.
Such a good word.
And social media is all about validation on the outside, and we want to fill these kids with those good values. And so, anyway, great question, JMT or mentorship person. Hey. Yeah, come on up. If they want to become a part of the John Maxwell team, how do they do that?
Go to johnmaxwellteam.com, or again, if you're a John Maxwell team member, stand up real quick. You guys
John Maxwell team member, stand up.
Or talk to one of these people right here. They will tell you how to do that. Thank you guys for being in the room.
But so now wait,
Maxwell
they were writing that down, and then we got people standing and confused the people. But get the cookies back down on the lower shelf here. What do they do if they want to be a John Maxwell team member?
Go to johnmaxwellteam.com or see one of the people that just stood. Raise your hand if you just stood.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's okay. I love it. Okay.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Hi, John.
Hi.
Dean Lewis. Pleasure to meet you again. Last time I met you was the day Eric Thomas also met you.
Yes.
And that was so inspirational to see you two connect. He said, always be ready when the opportunity comes. If you've done the work, be ready and be prepared. And it was cool to see you guys connect that day on that. So my question for you is, with the Change Your World book, I've got a podcast called The Journey of a Christian Dad. And have you got any advice for dads who are looking to change their own world in their own families, in their own home?
Great.
Well, obviously, I'm not only a father, but I'm a grandfather. And you know what? I love your question. I wish we really had time to do it justice because we're coming to the end. So let me just say this. When Margaret and I were getting ready to have our children, we asked ourselves a simple question. What are the things that we want to make sure that they grab hold of? And let's make sure it's just a few things. But what are those important things? And we only had 5. We had basically 5 things that we said we were going to really want to see our children understand and hopefully live out. And all the other stuff is just stuff. And we just really focused on parenting in those 5 areas of values for our children. And as I've looked back, I've always thought that was one of our, we had a lot of bad moves, but that was one of our better moves. And for dads and parents, I would just say, don't try to win the battle over everything with your children. Get the few things that are important to you as a parent and just say, okay, these are the ones we really want them to focus on, and just kind of let the other stuff go.
And the very practical thing that you can do with Change Your World is why we built it this way is because from the book, we go to the tables.
Yes.
And what we're seeing is some of our best, most effective tables start with your own with your own family.
That's good, Rob.
So when John says, pick 5 things, we have 25 transformational values that are everything that this book stands for. And we have tables designed and the curriculum's designed around each one of those 25 values. So as a family, pick 5 of those values, go super deep with the table with your own kids, and that would be the greatest place in the world to start. So we didn't have those tools when we were parenting and growing up, but if I had what we just built, Believe me, I would have taken our kids through it.
We started
Absolutely.
with the table, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
That was a much better answer than the one that I gave you. Next time, look straight at Rob and say, John has no clue, Rob. Help me out. What is your answer? That was really good.
Thank you.
I'm glad I know you guys.
One of the things I'm really proud of, guys, of the 5,000 people that have taken the assessment and gotten the assessment back, 100% then goes to changeyourworld.com and stays for over 7 minutes
Wow, I didn't know
to
that.
figure out
Wow.
how to go to the next
That's
piece. That's new information for you guys to know. Isn't that pretty
That's
cool?
awesome.
Isn't that awesome? Now, this last question, and we're done. Greg from Singapore asked, how do I create a leadership culture of transformation? And if you're okay, I'm going to try to take
Yeah,
an
you do
answer
it.
at this one since Rob just said, I'm going to try to do good.
Yes. Yeah.
But if I don't, jump right in.
Yes. Well,
So Greg,
I'm sorry. You have to answer it first.
so Greg, the
That was good, Mark.
we
But
created. I have to do this for 5 more days. Please pray for me. Please pray for me.
no one
know
feels
what?
sorry for you.
Mark,
No one feels sorry for you.
I have a feeling after today you're going to be covered in prayer. I think you're going to have a lot of allies praying for you. Please answer the question.
When we
Please.
get to Bismarck and all they have to wear is muscle shirts and you watch it online, you're going to know I threw the stuff out of the plane. So, these guys, Greg, back to your question in Singapore. Every time I go to India or Singapore, these guys really
Mark,
get
focus.
going. So, really, we created this whole thing for a movement, for this idea of engaging a culture of transformation. That's changeyourworld.com. Get the book, take the assessment, it's free, get the report. You're going to want to join a community to get better. That's the way this thing is designed. It's that simple. But yet, when we were casting that vision, and really, it was basically the same question, Greg, that you're asking in Singapore. How do I get this in a culture? The superintendent of Knox County, this is Knoxville, Tennessee, Knox County, 4,000 educators. He and his staff stood up and said, we want to get a book for every one of the educators in Knox County. That's 4,000 books. One of the other leaders in the room said, I just happen to have the budget and I am going to take money out of my budget and buy you 4,000 books to put it in the hands of all your educators in Knox County. That's pretty cool. If you want to clap right there, that's pretty awesome.
It's very awesome. Yeah.
And so yesterday, a superintendent got the vision. We need to change our teams, our students, but before we change our students, we need to change our teachers. We're going to find a way to get our 4,000 teachers to start the process with the book. Another leader hears that and says, we're going to buy those books. Now you don't have an excuse. Let's go.
That's beautiful.
So Greg, you got to catch the vision. People in this room, you've got to catch the vision. You already got a book if you're in this room. If you haven't got a book and you're online, you need to go to changeyourworld.com. You've already got a book, but who else needs to start this journey with you?
That's good.
Who is compelling you to go in the back, if you're in the room, online, if you're watching us, and saying, I need to get a box of books. I'm not just out for a book. I'm out to start a movement. I'm out to engage people. Greg, that's why your question is so important. We need you to be changed, but to change, we need you to take people with you. That's how we change the world. Don't just be changed yourself and not engage people and take people on the journey of change with you. I love Becky traveling with us and said, hey, what I did, I got my book, but I remembered 3 people that has mentored me and truly changed my world. I went and got their book, got them a book. I had John and Rob sign it, and now I'm going back to a mentor that has changed my world. My challenge to you, how am I doing?
You're doing really good.
My challenge
In fact,
to you.
unusually good.
My challenge to you right now is join the movement.
Yeah.
Get a book. Get your team a book. Get on the line online, changeyourworld.com. One final thing. Today we're streaming in all over Latin America. We're streaming in Romania, and for the first time ever, we had a book launch simultaneous in 3 languages. Online, everything that you'll see at Change Your World is available in Romanian, it's available in Spanish, because we had a simultaneous launch, because we are serious about changing the world. But you can clap on that. We're serious about it. But to do it, We've got to have you catch the vision, Greg, others in the room, those of you watching online. You've got to catch the vision to change
good.
your world.
Great,
Did you guys add anything here?
Yeah, Mark just said, don't just get a book for yourself. Get a book for, if you're going to start a table of 6, get 6 books and start your table. If you have a business, go get you a box of books. By the way, if you do, you that are here, we'll sign them with the names of the people that are in your organization or on your team, and we'll just help you do everything we can to get that out. Great job, Mark.
Chesterfield, will you help me thank thousands that joined us in the room today for joining us online today? Thank you. For those in the room, will you keep it going for these incredible people that have wrote a book? Thank you.
Thank you.